Get
All
off
right.
my chair, cat.
Well, so we're going to try to do this as relaxed as possible. This is going to be the carbon fiber thing, and if this winds up taking, this is definitely going to take two sessions, because I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and hopefully apply the carbon fiber today, and then on the next session we can peel it off and see what carbon the stuff is like, and maybe getting finish on. It may take three. We'll see how this goes.
So that would
Um,
that would be just the next Ding Kings at the end of
Yeah,
August.
yeah, or we could space it out. We could do something in between if something else more interesting came up. But this seems fairly interesting.
Yeah.
So uh, a couple things about this to start off with. I thought first we'd start with some shout outs to the shoulders of giants that I stood on to do the last one, which was Joe Glaser and Scott Holyfield from the Glaser shop basically pioneered this technique. So I'd like to shout them out, as it were. And then also Nikki Walters actually gave me a lot of inspiration to try it. She kind of cranked on it first out of the group, I think. Maybe Scott St. Dennis did one. I didn't see it until much later because he keeps his YouTube channel kind of a secret in the group for some reason. But anyway, so that was very helpful. And then Joel Wilkins, whose help I probably wouldn't have been nearly as successful with the vacuum system, except for Joel gave me a lot of inside baseball on vacuum bagging and the way that I chose to vacuum bag the D'Acquisto that we did before, or that I did before. So disclaimer, the D'Acquisto that I did before came out really, really pretty good. I don't know if that was luck, because that was the only one that I've done so far. So what you're about ready to witness is still what I would consider to be in the experimental phase. I haven't heard back from the customer. There's a lot of things about that repair where I was a little bit hamstrung and was kind of there were constraints put on the repair that I loaded it with a bunch of caveats. He wanted it to stay within the framework of the stinger that was on there. I hope everybody's seen the repair that I'm talking about. It. Lord knows I've posted it enough, but so he wanted it to stay within the stinger, and so it kept it pretty small. I think this repair is probably, and I also put a very hard edge on the end where it came together for the stinger, just because it seemed like it would be tough to control that shape drawn out. So I think by and large, this is going to be a much better repair with the ends tapered, especially over the barrel. If you look on this one, I've got a nice crisp edge on this side, though. I don't think that winds up seeing much flex there, but I've got a tapered edge down in this area. So I should also say, I wanted to talk a little bit about pictures being statistically, pictures that we post on Instagram being statistically irrelevant for real world repair scenarios. That I was really excited to post the pictures of that carbon fiber repair. I was very excited to do the repair. I enjoyed almost all of the aspects of doing that repair. And I think there's a good chance that I could go the remainder of my career and never do that repair again, or maybe do it one more time. I still feel like it was the right repair for that job. I probably am not gonna, no disrespect to the Glaser shop, and everybody is welcome to see things differently, but it probably is not going to be my, every guitar that has a broken headstock gets this repair now. My experience in repair has been 90% of the guitars that come to me with broken headstocks, they get the grandpa treatment. They get tight bond in the crack, and a couple clamps. Maybe every once in a while you got to get fancy and figure out some kind of one little part of the crack isn't coming to, and you got to figure out how to get an extra clamp on there. Sometimes I'll put a ratchet strap around it to, really force it shut. Sometimes when the peg head is clean off the guitar, I might have to do like an MDF backer on the face of the peg head and figure out some way to slide that, keep those things aligned or whatever. But by and large, tight bond and some clamps that's just the reality of 90% of the repairs. Once again, on Instagram, I'm so jaded now, I'm not going to post a lot of pictures of me with my, with the tight bond and the one dumb pony clamp that, I'm charging some person $180 to do that. It feels a little, honestly, like I've told people before too, I'd be like, get yourself a quick grip and some tight bond and have at it, because it's not a particularly challenging repair. So anyway, but that's like.
Well, let me ask you a question while you're talking about that then.
Yeah.
So, and you can include back straps, you can include this, what we're looking at now with the carbon fiber in the mix, but generally speaking, where is your demarcation line for when you're going to suggest going above beyond a pony clamp?
That's great. And I should say too, oh boy, back straps, you could probably go through my Instagram and my YouTube and see every single back strap that I've ever done in my life. I didn't do a lot of them throughout the history of my career. I worked at, my last repair gig before being at Buzzy's was working at Gruen's. Back straps don't come up an awful lot on acoustic guitars, vintage guitars and stuff like that. It mostly comes up on modern stuff. I started to intersect with that a little bit more at Buzzy's, but getting to like things that get me thinking something needs to go beyond backs, go beyond just glue and a clamp. Recidivists, guitars that have been broken more than once, guitars that are incredibly short grain over the transition between the paddle and the barrel of the neck. I have had, guitars, modern Gibsons, where clearly somebody had a hard time laying the template out that day, and it's, like the last R9 that I did that was a backstrap, like the grain over the transition was damn near perpendicular to the transition. It wasn't quite perpendicular, but short, slight gluing surface, like low gluing surface, recidivist peghead breaks. That's the use. I don't know. Does anybody else have any other scenarios where they think it would warrant reinforcement?
Have you ever done the spline thing?
Splines I did early on. For whatever reason, my hillbilly sense of physics doesn't like splines. I feel like in some regards it makes them weaker. Now I think that we just had Mike McConville on, and he talked about splines, and I think he actually makes the jig that puts those like very long splines in, and they taper in and they taper out. I think that splines that go in and they have, he actually explained it pretty well, but splines that go in and they just have like end grain to end grain on either end of the spline. I think for some, he thinks that's, it's just like gluing end grain, which as we found out online recently, somebody did a test, and it's not as weak as you might imagine, but it's also not as strong as the alternative. So his big long splines, I think he said those are tough to do on an expensive guitar though. I mean, that's a tough.
You mean cosmetically tough to do?
Yeah, I have a hard time. I have a hard time. So part of me has a hard time with it. Like I've got a lot of conflicting, I've got a lot of conflicting ideas about especially vintage guitars or important guitars and stuff. Part of me goes, screw it, it's just a guitar. Do make it solid. And then some of me is like, nah, you should probably play the ball where it lies and try to make it less intrusive and less obvious that things have happened. I go back and forth on that kind of stuff all the time, but essentially the market kind of, at least in vintage guitars, has spoken on this. And boy, people just they don't want to see a lot of repair work on a guitar, and they don't want to see a lot of big repair work.
So let me ask you another question related to the whole, juggling match of which to do when, why, and where. What would be because you've done one of these with the carbon fiber, and we've seen Glaser's presentation on it, and we've all seen Nikki's wonderful application of the repair. Compare this to a backstrap. When would you choose to go, in one cul-de-sac versus the other?
Well, okay, so let me grab a chair because I think we're going to probably do a little bit of talking.
Okay.
So the DeQuisto, for instance, was the right move because it already had a stinger on it, and so I didn't have to think about like trying to touch up, take an expensive guitar and figure out how to pull some kind of crazy fake wood grain look to hide the carbon fiber.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like moving forward, like on this Les Paul Studio, if this was a candidate for this. This is a cheap guitar. I think this repair could actually be done pretty quick, and as long as the end result is, hey, I don't mind if I see carbon fiber. Actually, I think it looks cool. I might be inclined to do it.
I would just mean just spray clear over it.
Just spray clear on it. I think it looks cool. The DeQuisto, when it had clear over the top of it, it looked really cool. Like it looked really cool. But I've tried to paint things, for a long time now. And I could just see like going into trying to create a fake story of mahogany over the back of some carbon fiber, just, having me go into a dark place, like chasing that. Cause Scott's work looks good, and all that stuff looks good, but I know, like I've seen myself do that, and I've seen what happens when you roll that stuff around in the light, and you've nailed one angle, and then the other angle it looks absolutely ridiculous. So it's hard for me to think about like doing that, but maybe.
Yeah, and I think you're right about that, because what you get away with from sitting from the back row of the music club versus
Yeah.
what guitar player stands looking at the back of his headstock are two different things.
Yeah, I mean, once again, on an inexpensive guitar or a mid-range guitar, and by inexpensive guitar, I'm really talking about anything, and this is going to sound incredibly elitist, but I'm talking. I don't start getting worried about stuff until it's like getting over 7 or 8 grand. I don't think anything under 10 is not a particularly. It's an expensive guitar, but it's not like it's not you're not going to find anything that is going to be going into the Country Music Hall of Fame as an exhibit in that price range, and where you need to worry about anything about the guitar other than its functionality. So, and how much it can make a guitar based racket. That's what those guitars are, up into that price range are for. So
Going back to the carbon fiber, if you had weighing in one half of the scale your carbon fiber choice versus backstrap on the other scale, which is the thing that tilts the scale towards one choice or the other?
Well, with a backstrap, like say it's like on a nice, like several $1,000 Les Paul or something like that, modern. modern something where it would be nice not to have, you know, a Ferrari dashboard on the back of your neck when you're done with it. Like it, like a backstrap can actually look pretty nice. A backstrap can look pretty unobtrusive, not invisible. I've never made them invisible, but they definitely can look. They can look pretty darn good and look appropriate for the instrument. So, like I said, like I don't see this coming up a whole lot in the remainder of my career. I think it's an interesting technique, and once again, on the D'Acquisto, like the grain was so short, the neck was so thin. It had already been glued. Like I think he said it had like probably 4 or 5 previous attempts to glue this brake. And it already had a stinger. Like it was like a perfect storm of of doing that. So but yeah, I don't know that's going to come up too often, but I'm glad the technique was there for this particular instrument. So
Okay, so let me ask you another question. Where does the carbon fiber rod thing fall in the pantheon of reinforcement as you're looking at uh, carbon fiber overlay like you have here versus?
so I think probably I need to do some, James and Rodman and I are probably going to do some testing, but I think ultimately the carbon fiber rod is going to be what I use on just about everything. I probably won't do backstrap overlays anymore after we get the carbon. It's a hunch, but like the one that I did on that 52 Les Paul, when I was then that one had been broken a lot. I personally repaired that guitar 3 times, and it had been repaired at least once before that. And when I got done with, and it was shattered. And once I got done with that, and I was like flexing it around and really trying to make sure that it was solid, it was very startling how solid it was. So this one, also the video, this was made the video going through the fingerboard with the carbon fiber rods. This is this one, and so I also made a follow-up video where I put 30 pounds of weight right at the nut, and I could have put more. I didn't want to because I was, this was my guinea pig for this thing, and I was like, I didn't want to push it too hard, but I could tell I could put more. Like I could have put 50 pounds on that, and you know,
Well, that will be the subject of a future Ding Kings, I'm guessing.
yeah. No, we may if we can get enough crash test dummies, we could do a Mythbusters and put them a hydraulic press and see what's going on with it. But or maybe get some dead necks from Stu Mac or something like that and dummy up a bunch of them. But that rod scenario is very, very interesting. The thing of taking the fingerboard off, like on the Les Paul, versus going through the fingerboard, like if we figure out a slick way of covering the holes after the fact on the fingerboard, then I mean, personally, I think,
but that's the subject matter for the future Ding Kings that I'm talking about, how to do that.
yeah, I don't think it's going to be particularly hard. I ordered some bits for the Dremel, and I think I'm going to build it. I'm going to probably 3D print a template routing thing for. I mean, those drill bits are 1/4 inch, so 1/4 inch bit zip, and then lay in 2 square pieces of Indian rosewood on that board, and I think you're ready to go. The other thing too is like the rods are fast. Like setting that up to drill and then drilling it did not take any time at all. So yeah. And so yeah. Any other questions? Anybody else before we get going and start mucking about on this guitar? Anybody?
Your adhesive or your bonding between your carbon fiber and wood, is that going to be epoxy for all these techniques?
Yeah. So the carbon fiber rods, I glued in with West 105, the 20, I think there's Special Clear 207 hardener, and then so I'm not speaking out of the 404, the 404 filler. So, and I think the filler is going to be key to that. So yeah. So, and I scuffed the rods up really well with 80 grit sandpaper, trying to get some more mechanical stuff in there.
Ian, I got a question for you. And, the carbon fiber rod technique really, it just eliminates this. Removing the old glue or adhering to the old glue. I think that's one of the biggest problems with going back into these repairs, getting that old glue out of there and adhering to it. We used to use a sandblaster, and believe it or not, in the dental office. And that would work, but the carbon fiber just eliminates that need. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good thing. Once again, I don't know if it's going to be an every guitar thing. I don't know. I don't think, once again, going to back to the squirt of tight bond and an orange pony clamp. Boy, that just works. It just works. And it's like, I don't know that you need to reinforce every single guitar. It's just like most people, after that, they learn their lesson, they get a Hamilton stand, and then you never see them again. So I don't know.
You got to think like Tim Allen. More power.
Okay.
More power.
Yeah, I totally agree with your stance on that. We had an artist at Taylor that used to get wild and crazy on stage. He broke his peg head 4 times, and we just glued it with tight bond every time, and it always broke in a different spot.
Yeah,
It works.
That's the thing. So I do want to take one of these carbon fiber rod things, though. It's one thing to put static weight on it and just kind of and flex it. I do want to see what it does with shock damage of taking a dive again. I still think you could shatter parts of the peg head off of the rods, but you're not going to break the rods, and you're not going to I don't think you're going to wind up breaking open across the grain line. I don't think you're going to break open a talking peg head scenario again. So, but I think you probably still could shatter pieces off of it, which I think you just glue back on and then go. The other thing that I would say about the rods too is these are flexible. And I think that's a good thing. So I originally, when I did the first one on that gold top, I bought some extra rods to go in here to tighten it up, but I kind of got thinking about it, and I was like, I think I want that flexibility. I think I want it to bend. So yeah. All right, should we get to cutting? Anybody got any other questions?
Where are you getting those rods from, Ian?
That was from Dragon Plate. Joel's actually, Wilkins has I don't know if he still knows where he got them, but the ones that I put in the 52 were they were that wrapped cloth. These are the pultruded, and that wrapped cloth stuff was substantially more rigid. Once again, I don't know if that's for this application a good thing or a bad thing, but it should be noted that not all of these 1/4 inch carbon fiber rods are kind of the same thing. I don't really like reading about what I do for a living, so I didn't do a lot of research. I just kind of grabbed the first thing I saw. So did I just say that out loud? All right, let's cut. All right, so I made up this thing, which has already got a new iteration. This is the depth stop. This is big shout out to Nikki for her using the kind of the tried and true drill bit method to gauge the depth of cut. So this now has a hole in it to where you can get in there and loosen this up and set it. This was set by having it, kind of loose dial, dial indicator. Boy, that camera's really blown out, isn't it? How's that one? Doug, you want to grab the other one?
You're not in either one of the other
Oh,
cameras.
okay. So anyway, you just got your drill bit poking out the top there, and you just want to set it with like, throw yourself whatever your offset is. So the DeQuisto, I did three layers. And when I started this, I had it in my head that the carbon fiber sheet was 20 thousandths thick. Makes sense, right? Seems like 20 thousandths. Turns out it was 10 thousandths. And so I did an offset of 60 thousandths. And so we're actually going to do quite a few more laminations than I was originally thinking. But and I didn't think about this until later, but having the deep golf ball drills, I'm losing my train of thought, and actually leaving some of it behind, which might be challenging to do, would probably wind up leading to better adhesion. One of the things I thought about, and I told the customer about this with the other guitar, was that my main concern was delamination. And I told him that, like, it may come up. The vacuum is such that I just don't know how much adhesive was in there, et cetera, et cetera. But if it does delam off of the maple, I think on that guitar, for instance, it would be pretty easy just to throw some more West Systems in there, clamp it up, and it probably be good to go. But if you were to leave, and Doug, can you throw this camera up over here that's showing this side?
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to leave these like slight little indentations, say you were going for 40 thousandths and you did 60 and you left 20 of these little 20 thousandths of these little indentations. With the vacuum, I think it would stand to reason that the vacuum would suck to those indentations and probably give you some really excellent mechanical adhesion. So
Let me ask you about your experience with the doing the layers. You said you wound up having to do like 6 layers as opposed to what you expected to do.
oh yeah, we're gonna probably do 5 layers on this one. I was measuring. I don't think I was quite that deep with the drill bit, but yeah. So originally I did 3.
When
Yeah.
you're dealing with the carbon fiber, and in theory, every time you add an extra layer, is that affecting your stiffness or your rigidness in your application process, or is it just thicker, more layers?
I don't know.
Okay.
So maybe somebody that knows more about carbon. If Joel was here, I bet Joel could speak to that. But I think that there probably is an increasedness of stiffness. And I don't know what, I'm sure there must be some kind of like E equals MC squared kind of thing to it or something, but I don't know what it is.
Mhm.
So, all right, we ready to cut?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I went on the wrong side. Whoops. Lucky I know how to paint.
Zoom is
What's
is
that?
Zoom is oh, you actually have the tool running. It was hard to tell because Zoom was canceling out the noise of the Dremel.
What was that? What's that?
Nothing. Zoom was canceling out the noise of the Dremel, so it was hard to tell if it was actually running or not.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
smart dentist never says oops.
So how deep do you have that currently set?
All right.
So how deep do you have that thing set currently?
This was set by this guy at 60 thousandths, which
Okay.
probably means that my cut is probably more like 55, I would think, like that.
Okay.
So it's a little hard to measure, but let's see here. Actually, is that showing up?
Yeah.
No? All right. So I'm gonna do this like I did the DA, which is that I'm gonna leave the peg head overlay on there like it was bound.
And is that for ease of touching up later?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's not a big deal because it's black. I don't even know if it's best practice, but if this was, like if I was doing this on something expensive, um, you know, I wouldn't want to try to figure out how to match black over the top of it. And it's probably just for style points, like it's probably good practice because if you do have a bound one, you should probably, uh, you know, figure out how to leave the binding.
I've got a finished carbon fiber wrapped one here. Seems like I should be able to add something to the conversation, but I can't think of anything.
Do it.
Well, this one I didn't chop any of the wood away where you're chopping right now.
Yeah.
I just left all that.
The thing, so me and the customer on the DA, we went round and round about that. Because I was pretty adamant that I know I don't read for about what I do, but I do know about I-beams, and I know that the strength of the I-beam are those basically the strength in the different axes. And this is essentially creating that wrap over is going to create strength in the whatever axis or whatever. I don't know. Somebody
Mm-hmm.
knows about that stuff can fill that in. But so what our compromise was I laminated because the original stinger might have well been put on by Jimmy. The stinger might have been put on by him. I don't know, but it still had the maple on the side. So I capped the edge with maple and touched it up. And it wound up, it's got the carbon fiber in there, and then it's got, it still looks halfway like it did. So
So on your glue line there, is that the most recent repair, or is that a previous repair?
This is the most recent repair, and I was joking that this was sitting in Lark Street's never gonna happen pile. And it was sitting in there because I don't know what this white stuff is, but it looked like they tried to glue it back together with instant mashed potatoes.
So you don't know what that is?
I no idea. I do know it was like it wasn't menacing enough to hold the headstock, but it was menacing enough to prevent me from like cleaning it out and actually getting it to go back together halfway decent. So we've already lost a lot of material on this wood just to like trying to level unleveled, completely botched crack.
So when you're doing the cutout here in the shoulders of the peg head, how worried about your shape? Or are you going to do all of your reshaping and carving once in the carbon fiber?
Yeah, I would say worry about it. So I think you do need to build into the equation that you're going to have some resin over the top of the carbon fiber. How much that is, I don't know, but ideally that's what you would work to like bring your shape in a little bit. But the carbon fiber looks really, really nice when you don't blow through layers of carbon fiber. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like ideally you would really nail the shape of this. You would put the resin over the top of it to kind of paint on some resin to just kind of solidify the carbon fiber, and maybe soak in a little bit more. And then afterwards, ideally, all of your shaping would be done probably in the final resin coat. So now and I think if you ask Glaser, I think they've moved on to doing this part with a duplicarver, like a purpose-built duplicarver. So this is actually a pretty crude. This is a pretty crude way of doing this, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I wound up on the whether I got lucky or not, I don't know, but I wound up not blowing through too much carbon fiber on the first layer of the DA. So Doug, you got a tongue cam going so you can see my tongue working around and I guess I would say, like at this part, like we all know what the back of a peg head looks like. So really try to shape it like just, use your intuition and shape it like, a smaller version of the original peg head, like.
So are you just tapering down to 0 near the barrel there?
0 is it like right in here? Or
Yeah,
in here?
kind of down towards the nut. I mean, like, how do you terminate the cut on the barrel side of the repair?
Oh, on this, I'm just guessing. I mean, I use it may have been too subtle to see, but there were some like remainders of the drill gauge in there.
So it looks to me like your cavity is right up to the bottom of the nut there. Like we're actually seeing the bottom of the nut.
Yeah, yeah, you are.
So when you glue in your epoxy and your carbon fiber, how is that going to is if somebody's going to be like replacing a nut in the future there, is that going to offer give them any interference of getting that puppy out?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe it might make it a little more challenging to get out, but what it's going to definitely do is give them a nice solid nut shelf made of carbon fiber there to
Okay.
work with after they. I guess that's my reasoning for leaving the nut in. Also, I don't want so when we do this, the carbon fiber, because of the vacuum, is going to like suck that into all of the voids a little bit, and I really don't want to like have. I don't want to clean that nut slot out when we're done with it. Like if I was going to do something like if there was a problem and I was going to try to mitigate it, then I would probably put in a dummy nut of like HDPE or some shit like that, you know.
So when Glaser was doing this and Nikki, were they both doing were they both gluing their carbon fiber in with vacuum clamping?
No, they were doing it with the twirling, and so they were using the surgical tubing and wrapping around it, and that's basically where I kind of mocked up doing this before I made the cuts on the did this to the DA, and I was wrapping it around, and I was really set on wrapping the carbon fiber over the side of the peg head, and it did not work well for going over the side of the peg head. In general, I didn't feel like it worked all that well either. Just because there's always, no matter how tight you wrap it, those tubes are round. And so there was always this one little space where the tubes would come together, even though it was very small, where there wasn't pressure down. Maybe that was in my technique, but I wasn't able to, and I bought the stuff and I was not able to apply it in a way that I felt comfortable about moving forward with the repair like that.
So this is something that you would only always and ever do with vacuum clamping.
Now, for sure, because the vacuum was not nearly as intimidating. Once Joel kind of lined me out on it, it wasn't nearly as traumatic to do as I thought it was going to be. Now, that is also, you should keep in mind that I've got a $60 vacuum pump off of Amazon to do this with. And had that vacuum pump failed during the glue up, oh boy, it would have been pretty bad. It would have been really bad. I may have just like moved, not told anybody where I was. So yeah, like if all of a sudden everybody's like, hey, I know Ian knows how to do this, and we're going to pay $1,000 a peg head to do this, and all of a sudden I'm in the business of, repairing. I would buy a better vacuum pump. I would buy one that was actually meant to be left on overnight, and they're available and they're pretty pricey. All right.
Hey, Ian.
Yes, sir.
You know, I think carbon fiber and epoxy, while it's messy and such, if you would have a failure of the air pump, all you do is unwrap it and pull everything off, wipe it down with acetone, start again the next day. I mean, it's not an end of the world thing, although a pain in the ass.
No, I wasn't. I didn't figure it would be, and even if it had gotten like, 70% cured and then just like, created a bird's nest. I mean, theoretically, you could just like mechanically take it all back off. Like,
And it looks like we just moved the guitar out of.
oh, we probably did here. Hold on a second. But I thought I'd show you the other side too, where the I actually the carbon fiber rod was exposed on this. The jig that the prototype jig that James and I were using, it was just a little bit wide, and so this one actually came through the back of the peg head. The other one did not, but I thought I'd kind of show this profile too. This one I'm tapering up and out, and I've got like a hard edge on this side.
Can you come back to the next side there? Yeah, that's quite a relief there.
Once again, had I stopped to measure anything, probably wouldn't be that crazy, but I'm coming in on the fingerboard here, which is actually already a little boogered up, but just doing a little scraping to get the glue from the bottom of the fingerboard off. I think it'll be nice if that's actually meaningfully stuck to the bottom of the fingerboard, the carbon fiber.
So Ian, when you're working with the solid carbon fiber, are you using metalworking tools when you're cutting it and shaping it with the rods?
No, I mean I cut those rods on my bandsaw, which is probably not great for my blade, but I don't know. I suppose you could. I suppose you probably ought to, but I didn't. All right. So where are we at here? I think we're getting close to being able to start setting up. Any questions about the removal process?
No, but Ian, that vacuum pump that you're using, is that just like one of those little HVAC pumps?
Yeah, I think that's right. Like, what I'll do is once we're done with this, what I'll probably do is go through and make another Amazon thing and then suss out all the different things that I actually used. The only thing that's different is the biscuit that Joel sent me. The biscuit that Joel sent me kindly for piercing the bag is a higher quality biscuit than I can find on Amazon. I don't even know if that's called a biscuit, but I'm gonna call it biscuit.
If you are looking for pumps who don't have one yet, we can talk about that another time, but there's a number of them you can get for under 400 that are actually quite good for continuous use.
Is that right?
Yellow Jacket is one to look for. That is a really good pump, very quiet. You can get it for $350, $400. It's not super high CFM if you're drawing, whole refrigeration systems, stuff like that. But it runs quiet. You can leave it under your bench and let it run for 12, 18, 24 hours and barely notice it's there. It's a pro quality pump, for a reasonable price.
Who said this?
Yellow Jacket.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. Who's that's the manufacturer?
Yeah. Yep.
And who's telling me about this?
Dave Collins.
Okay, cool.
I've got like 6 vacuum pumps because I am near University of Michigan, so they just give them away, from the labs. But my neighbor is a HVAC guy, and he swears by the Yellow Jacket. I've used those.
Cool.
So.
Well, I think I used a different. I didn't think about this. Give me 1 second, everybody.
there any way to pin Ian's video? I mean, I love looking at Doug property, but
Yeah, I was just setting up, so this is
okay.
So the carbon fiber, a couple little tips about this stuff, which is it just absolutely loves to fray. So when I cut it, I just went along with a little. This is gonna be annoying. Hold on a second. And I don't know if this is okay to do, but it's something that I did. But I just came along with some thin CA, and then after I cut it, I just kind of like had gravity working this way, and then just came down and just touched the very edges of these little you know, help me out here. Who's got a thesaurus? What are these called? Anyway, you get the idea. I just solidified these a little bit. You don't want to like do it to where it's going to wick in and stiffen the inside of it. You just want to do it just enough to where your different lines of fabric are going to pull out. The other thing too is I picked this up off of a video that Joel sent me. But when you're trying to cut a straight line on this stuff, it's best to actually like grab a hold of one of, you know, measure wherever you want to go, grab a hold of one of the fibers, and then just pull it out. It will actually denote a straight line for you to cut to.
You
So,
can just throw masking tape across it and cut, and it holds all the fibers together and straight line and all that fun stuff.
Is there a way for you to position the jib above the peg head so we can see what you're doing?
yeah, let's see if we can do that. How's that working?
Yeah, that looks good.
Okay. So this is the part I'm a little bit nervous about because there was no real way to test this out without actually doing it. So you may see some stops and starts and some, oh my God, what am I doing? But some of you may know, I'm not a big fan of putting tape on guitars ever, no matter how low tack it is. I try to avoid it. There's vacuum is pernicious stuff, man. It is good. It's like dinosaurs, man. Life finds a way, vacuum finds a way, and it finds a way to to escape and ruin your project. But I found that if so what we're gonna do, actually, let me back up here a little bit. You need to make a custom bag for this. And this is the bagging material that comes off of Amazon. It's flexible. I have a feeling when this is kicking around, like I'm going to find about a million other uses for it. I have a feeling this would probably be good, pretty good for wrapping binding maybe. But it's actually closed also on two ends. So I'm gonna like probably first off, I'm gonna like kind of like see how much of this I need to get going in order to make a bag for this. And so let's see here. Do something like yo, probably something like such. And then, so I'm gonna have the open end down at the peg head. Not saying that's the way that it should be done, but that's the way that I did it on the last one. And then I want to go over this by a fair amount. So this is going to slip on something like this. Now, this is the part that sucks. Well, actually, the vacuum pump is the part that sucks. This is the tape that goes and actually makes the seal. And so this stuff is actually quite expensive. This is like $17 for a roll. And I think this roll, I could probably do this like maybe 3 times. If everything worked out, you know, you have a couple stops and starts, and then next thing you know, you've spent $20 in tape for no reason. So this is looking pretty nice. Leave that like that. And then I found that if I took Teflon tape and wrap this end almost like you want to do it pretty tight, like you're actually doing a pipe. But several wraps of that. If anybody sees anything that they think could be done better, feel free to chime in. If you got experience with vacuum, if you got experience with pipe tape, and you think, hey, you're not going to hurt my feelings if you jump in and say, hey, couldn't this be done this way? So the next thing I'm going to do,
One quick question. What's the Teflon tape doing for you?
this is it's doing 2 things. One thing it was doing on the DA was it was being a barrier that was absolutely zero tack. The other thing that it's doing the same thing that it's doing in your pipe, which is to pick up, basically create an airtight seal where you have like kind of irregular shapes.
Okay.
So then I'm going to go around the whole thing with some electrical tape, and this I'm going to make really tight, like really like bring that vinyl in and try to get some real compression on that. I'm also leaving, I feel that my best seal, there was a lot of experimentation on this, but by the way, I can't overstate what a pain in the ass this tape is. It really is like once it goes on and it's on, you are done. Like you better have it in the right spot, because getting it to release is very, very challenging. So I found that the best seal that I had was when I had, and actually the best seal that I had was when I had the vacuum tape on both the black and the white, both on the electrical and on the Teflon. But this is now, it's pretty darn tight.
So it's looking like your main seal is going to be kind of on that finished portion of the neck. Do you think if the whole neck was unfinished, could you possibly get a seal on like a porous surface like that? Or do you want some sort of sealed wood?
I don't know. And actually I'm glad you brought that up because I completely forgot to think about this, but I also had to seal the truss rod up because it was pulling vacuum through the truss rod. So we'll go ahead and do that too. But so uh I have a feeling I never got like crazy vacuum on this. And I think you're absolutely right. I think it's gonna pull it like through the pores of the wood. I I I just think, like probably somewhere down here in the pickup cavity, there's like a little bit of air going through the pickup cavity as a result of the vacuum. But I got it enough to get good clamping, but I never got it to where I could just lock it down and walk away from it after it was clamped. I don't know if that was realistic or not, whether or not that could happen, but I never got to that point. So, all right, let's close up this truss rod cavity. Think about it. So on the DA, I was pretty jealous of the finish on the peg head. Um, I didn't want to do any touch up on it, and so I did allow myself some low tack tape on the peg head, and I was very careful about how I went about putting the vacuum tape into the truss rod cavity. I'm gonna do it that way just for fun, just so you can kind of see what I was up to. But so this is the low tack tape. This is what I call early wine tape. I got this from Dan Early Wine. Super low tack.
Is this the like transfer right stuff?
I don't know what this is. Dan might know. Dan, are you still there?
Transfer right. Yep. Now there's two tapes, Danny West tape and early wine tape.
That's right. So this tape has essentially a consistency of maybe like Laffy Taffy banana.
Is this a vinyl tape or?
No, this is Joel, you know what this stuff is? Joel, we lose you again? So I definitely want that to be like if I was just to go over the tape of that, it's crazy how much the vacuum finds weaknesses in your rig. But if I was just to go over the white tape of that, it would pull from between the tape and the truss rod cavity through there. I've actually got to get that vacuum tape like onto the finish into the truss rod cavity. So what you're seeing there is like something that I did on the DA. I didn't want to have like, any of that tape like directly on the finish, but I was willing to like roll the dice with just like a little bit of it on the inside of the truss rod cavity, the finish that was in there. So I'm pinching that into that.
Is this tape more like a putty kind of thing that you
It
put?
is, yeah, yeah. All right. So let's flip this back over.
So what's the yellow tape called? Or the yellow putty stuff?
I can't remember. I'll look in my cart and figure it out.
You might want to recenter the jib there. Or pull out, or whichever. I'm not sure which.
How's that?
Perfect.
Okay. So then I went over, actually, hold on. I need to flip that back over. Let's do this. So I went back, whoop. So I went back over this entire thing with packing tape.
You mean that yellow stuff or the whole pig head?
The whole peg head, because I was really, really paranoid about having, I didn't know how the epoxy was, how the resin was gonna wind up responding to the vacuum, and I thought it was just gonna like pull it out into the bag like in a kind of crazy fashion. I think it could do that. It didn't for mine. I have that, we'll get to the absorbent cloth here in just a second, but there was an absorbent cloth that we put down, but I think wound up handling most of it. But I just did not want an epoxy resin mess on the front, so I both taped it with this, and then I also waxed it.
You waxed the outer layer of the packing tape?
I did, yeah.
And what was that in aid of?
What's that?
What was that in aid of? Just
Like if epoxy was to get in there, it was not going to stick to anything.
okay. Because once you're sealed in your bag, if any of the epoxy works its way around to the front of the pig head, you don't want to have to be cleaning that off.
Yeah.
Okay.
It could be overkill. I'm actually going to do it again just for fun. then I'm gonna put this riser on it. And what this is gonna do is I really want when the vacuum draws, I want it to wrap around this spot. Actually, where are we at here?
Let me switch it.
I want it to come in and I want it to be able to wrap around this spot really, really well. If we go and we just have it, I felt like when I was doing some of my test baggings to start off with, if it was just like, just flat to the surface, it did not suck into this crease very well.
Can you bring that riser closer to?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, let's go to this one.
Yeah.
I've also drilled holes in the riser here.
Down a bit?
What's that? Yeah. So there's holes in the bottom also to increase vacuum.
Is that just an MDF block with?
Yeah, it's just some roughed out garbage.
And what's on the bottom, plexi, or is that it?
No, it's just more MDF.
Okay.
So, and then important to like knock all your edges down. If you have an edge, it's gonna pierce the bag.
And what are the holes doing for you?
Getting more vacuum. Basically what I want is I want that carbon fiber to come in here and for a lot of it to go in here, but also like that's going to aid in it pushing into that crease I found.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions so far?
I'm kind of curious what you estimate shop time to be for this repair.
I don't, it's hard for me to say, the DA was so much R&D. It was ridiculous. Like, I mean, I don't know, but I think a determined person could probably get in and out of this as quickly as a backstrap, I would think. It depends on what your expectations for the finish are, though.
Right. Yeah. It takes
Like-
a long time.
Like what Nikki did. Nikki did some very clever finishing on the one that she did, and the finishing alone that she did. I mean, I wouldn't do that for much less than probably $800 or $900. What she did on that. All right.
Is that a number 7 total vise in the crossover mini
This
there?
is a number 5.
Okay.
Since I got my proper workstation, my number 7 is on its way to Ireland for some reason. I don't know what that's about, but
Where in Ireland?
the green part.
Is it a particular pub that they will find it useful in?
How are we doing on time?
We're about an hour and 20 minutes in.
I didn't even think about this. I had a lot more peg head to work with the other guitar.
So this orange block you have there,
Yeah.
is that a 3D printed item?
It is, yeah. And I don't know that it's gonna work on this one. I completely spaced it. We've got way less peg head than the DA.
And what is the orange block providing you? Just extra clamping support?
Well, no, it's got holes in it. My thought was that it was gonna like take all of the where are we at here?
I'll put you go right there. You're fine.
So in essence, the biscuit is sitting here.
Mm-hmm.
And then so this is pulling vacuum, and this is gonna like distribute the vacuum out through more than just, this one tiny little hole.
Nice.
It's gonna pull it from different areas of the apparati here. We did not get enough bag here. I did this the other time too. I got just a little bit cheap with the tape. Like I just did not want to spend a lot of money on the tape.
Ian, is that orange block 3D printed?
It is, yeah. I'll make all these files available for this.
If you were gonna make a block for like a Les Paul peg head like you have here, would you make that orange block smaller?
Yeah, I think I would. We'll see. This may work just fine.
And the tape you put down just now is so that you don't have to deal with any epoxy up there.
Yeah, probably best practice, and probably should get some probably get some of this stuff too. I'm gonna roughhouse it just a little bit. I also don't want to I want to make the vacuum uneven. I don't know if it's going to do that or not, but you never know. Anybody see my scissors? Found them. So we almost had to cancel this 3 times. One, because I drilled, well, actually all related to me drilling the holes too deep. I wasn't sure I had enough carbon fiber to actually do this after I realized I was gonna have to do 6 plies. But we're gonna do it.
So Ian, normally how many plies? Just 1 or 2?
Well, everybody else seems to do just 1.
Okay.
I don't know, Scott, you wanna talk to that?
Yeah, 2 layers. And that's just from the Glaser recipe book. 2 layers of carbon fiber, 10/1000ths of an inch thick. Plain weave carbon fiber. Scott Holyfield actually has a YouTube channel.
Has he been adding to it?
No, it's just a. Did you see all of them? There's like 5, 10 videos, maybe. They're old. It's called like Berry Hillbilly Productions because they're in Berry Hill, Tennessee.
Right, yeah.
Berry Hillbilly. Oh, but the YouTube channel's name is Guitar Damage. If anybody wants to view that.
Do you ever go over and say hi to those guys?
No.
I got a really nice tour of the facility when Chad Gerby was still working there.
So Ian, you mentioned earlier that you really don't want to blow through like the actual fibers when you're, sanding it out later. So on your layup here, are you aiming for, like a little shy of the actual, height of the finish or what?
Shy of the height of the finish? Yeah, I suppose. Once again, this is the second one I've done. So like, I would probably go on this. I would probably go right up to my offset, and then, I have a feeling that this isn't 10/1000ths after it gets vacuumed. It could be. It doesn't seem like it has a lot of spring to it, but even like a couple thousandths, I don't know. I don't want to rely too heavily on resin afterwards. Like if I thought I had to rely a lot on resin afterwards, I might actually probably switch to Bondo or something. I don't really trust maybe with some filler or something, but I don't know. I would try to get close. Does that answer your question or get close to answering it?
Yeah.
So you're taking all these layers in place so you can fan them out.
Yeah, flip them up and put So one thing about the original version of this is I did a shit ton of dry runs before I did a wet run. And I think what we'll do is we'll do a dry run, and then the next one we'll do a wet run, since we're going so long on time. But I think I don't see how you do this without doing dry runs. Like, one of the things that also occurs to me is I knocked these edges off a little bit because I was afraid of bag puncture. I think maybe also I put like a little bit of tape over the binding here.
How thick are those or thin are those bags?
They're very thin, they're very flexible, but they're also pretty strong. We'll go ahead and let that ride.
So around the edges of the area where you removed wood from the neck, are your walls pretty like straight up and down, or you do try to taper them off a little bit?
This,
Yeah, like up where where you didn't take wood off to basically where it blends back up.
Oh, this end is straight up and down, and I don't think it really matters there. This area is tapered.
Okay.
So
you have a pretty hard wall right at where you.
Yeah, no, it's crisp. It's as close to 90 degrees as I can get.
So if you could recenter the jib so you pull back a tiny bit so we can see it from that angle. There we go.
A really terrible job with the scissors there. Anybody else need to go to the bathroom? Give me our first dancing to the bathroom break. Who here is thinking there's no way this is going to work right now?
I'm in.
Who's
got
that?
me.
What's that?
You got me nervous on this one.
Who said that?
Dave Collins.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many layers was the last one you did?
Great.
3. I'm just worried about the stiffness, and I have no experience to base my fears off of. But the stiffness and the penetration, the ability to pull, to pull through 6 layers. I just don't know.
We'll see.
Yep. Is that a regular standard weave? It's not a twill weave or anything? Okay. Yeah. Standard weave.
You're gonna brush epoxy in between each layer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that stuff also from Dragon Plate? Yeah.
The
sheets.
For this, all the rest of it's off of Amazon.
Cool.
All right. So this stuff right here is called release fabric. And this is how you get a pretty nice look. Without it, you're gonna be fighting it pretty hard, getting it all apart.
And the release fabric is going between the bag and the outer layer of epoxy?
Yep.
What is it? It almost looks like a plastic.
I'm sure it must be plasticized somehow or Teflonized or something. It kind of looks like, to me, like parachute material, maybe.
Okay.
David, do you know what it is?
No, I've done non-vacuum epoxy boat repairs, just kind of emergency field repairs, but nothing vacuum bag, just small carbon or fiberglass patches.
I think so the name of this company is called Fiberglass. So this does seem like carbon fiber probably borrowed a lot of its moves from fiberglass, I would think.
Yep.
And then there's this stuff. I can't remember what this stuff is called, but this is actually this stuff, if I'm remembering correctly, does two things. One, it absorbs stray resin, and then it also lets the air distribute more evenly, or lets the vacuum distribute more evenly.
If the whole guitar thing don't work out, you might have a future in upholstery.
I would love it. When things get dark in guitars, I think I'm going into furniture. Like, isn't everybody looking for a place to sit, you know? So on the DA, when I pulled it out of the bag the next day, it was a bird's nest of craziness, and I thought I'd really fucked up. And I got a video, maybe I'll post it, of me debagging and then finally getting it off. And basically, if I had it to do over again, what I'd do is, because where it wrapped around the peg head, it created the kind of like this hard thing that was like holding on to it. And if I had just cut around that edge, once I kind of like filed around it and futzed with it, and I thought I was just in for just like mechanically taking the whole thing off. But once I got that broken down and I got down to the release fabric and I just like pulled on the release fabric, it came off like so beautifully. Maybe I won't post the whole video, but I'll post the part where it comes off. Joel, are you still there?
I am.
You remember when I pulled that thing off and I was real excited?
I remember you trying to get it off for ages before that with the file and stuff and cursing along the way.
Cursing, you say? That doesn't
A
sound like
lot,
me.
a lot of cursing. But when it did come off, it came off great.
Yeah. All right.
So that fabric doesn't stick to epoxy.
This stuff does. The other stuff does not.
The stuff
Okay.
that's just below it, what you call the release fabric.
Yeah. However, because it's double-sided, that release fabric will release from this as well.
Okay.
So the release fabric will release from the carbon fiber and from this if everything goes smoothly.
And you said that last 2 layers, that's a just in case to absorb any epoxy?
The last 2 layers.
Those that you have your hand on right now, that's just to absorb any epoxy that might come through?
Yeah. It's also to distribute to make sure that like sections of the bag don't get pulled down so tight. You know, like bag on bag is going to like cut off the vacuum. So what it does is it makes sure that, you know, your bag is not like sealing shut until it's got like a nice even amount of vacuum going across it. I think that's the memory of it. All right. Let me just get a little more room, I think.
Ian, this looks like orthopedic surgery.
How's that?
You're wrapping a splint.
Could be.
You missed your calling.
Paging Dr. Devlin. Paging Dr. Devlin.
Oh, thank you. I can't deal with customers whose guitars have died. Too dark.
Yeah, which epoxy are you going to use for this?
West. I bought some of the stuff that the Glaser team recommended and Nikki used, and I was just like, not the time for new tricks, you know.
So now you're
Yeah,
just
got it.
taking the ends of the bag, and then going to slip it over everything.
Glaser seems like a polyurethane mech kind of setup or a different epoxy.
Say that again.
The Glaser way, does he use a polyurethane or polyester and mech catalyst, methyl ketone catalyst, or?
You know, he recommends RBC, and it was a specific RBC. I can grab it if you want.
Well, that's all right. I just,
No. I think it's interesting.
Is this the monogrammed Ian Davlin epoxy?
Yeah, this is the special. It came to me special, and I still didn't use it. But this is the stuff that I got.
oh yeah, no, that's not what I was thinking. What I'm thinking is the resin, and then the hardener is like 0.5% of the resin. So like a polyester, like a gel coat kind of thing.
So on this, I did this where I peeled this back just a little bit. How are we doing on camera here? Peeled this back like yo. You see how I've got that peeled back there on the ends?
So this is more of that yellow.
Yeah, and then I went over it. Like this. Give myself a nice overage there. And then put that back down on there like yo. And I also have this to where this is flipped. Let's see here. Where this is flipped over like this, so this end will actually double up when it's time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and is that the naturally sealed end of the bag?
That's the naturally sealed end of the bag, correct?
All right.
So then this goes on.
You might have to back out a bit with the camera.
Yeah. On thusly. Goes on like this. Make sure we got enough room here.
Well, I want to pull back out on the jib so we can see it. You want to pull back out on the jib so we can see it from overhead. There you go.
So just so we're on the same page here, we're up like this. And that this is gonna like come together like this. Are we coming together here? The answer to that is yes. And then I think I'm gonna just for fun, I think I'm gonna put another layer of tape on this end. Maybe not the entire length. Nah, I've got the double in there. Let's actually do the test run. We'll see if this works.
You got to pop a hole in the bag there for your
You indeed.
vacuum.
Yep. How we doing, Joel?
Oh, you're doing great.
Yeah. I found it worked good to make like an actual hole here. It was tempting at first just to split it, but I don't think it worked quite as well. You guys ready to pull some vacuum?
Going to be able to reuse that bag for your actual run then?
Nope. I mean, maybe. I didn't find it was worth it. Like I couldn't figure out how to reseal it in a good way. I bet you could. Dang it, is Jeremy not here? He worked for like a carbon fiber guitar maker.
I doubt they'd use too much with single-use bags, probably all molds and bagging jigs with the same membrane over and over.
So this is the point at which I would probably, if this were a wet run, this is probably, I would get it to this point and then start anointing it with the scented oil of the West system. And I think the move is to bring this, once it's go time, bring this up to this. Fold these guys, make sure these guys are folded under, and then start forcing this to be, in line. This, are we wide? Not wide, are we? Forcing this to be in line. Now you want to like just go around this thing and really just like do it like you're an aunt at a family get together and just pinch these cheeks, I'm feeling super confident about how we did this. I think I went with even more around here. Maybe this is okay. We'll see. Pull some vacuum. So here's, I don't know, like, how, are we wide enough to see this?
Yep.
My vacuum pump, this thing puts off a horrible oily residue. So it's sitting in a garbage can and it gets a towel put over the top of it to absorb that oily shit. Here's the regulator. Throw this on the basket.
So that's like a air conditioning style vacuum pump.
Yeah, something like that. And then this isn't great, but I found once, I think maybe I had my wife come and help me with this. But I found that you want to really pull this out as you're throwing it on. We'll go ahead and throw this and we'll see what we get. Everybody see that?
Yep.
So I'm gonna have my wife come and throw that, and I'm gonna try to force this into shape. 1 second. Hold on. This way.
Javelin in the ER, about to put the paddles on and resuscitate the patient.
Well, it seems as though a hard roller, like a little rubber flat roller, would be an assisting tool there.
Like this move right here.
Yeah, like that.
It's still got like some kind of weird, like some weird ridge happening right here that I definitely want that out. But this is very close to how the other one looked.
So it looks like your vacuum's off now.
It is, yeah. I may have poked a hole in the bag.
And you'll have the opportunity to do this when it's wet then, right? To turn it off and readjust and turn it back on.
A little bit, yeah, within reason. I mean, you got the open time of wet systems to deal with. You know, I used, oh, this is the, okay. Yeah, we're good. I used the, I used a combination of fast and slow hardener. Just because I felt like I didn't trust the vacuum pump. I did leave it 24 hours and the vacuum, or not 24 hours, but overnight. And the vacuum pump absolutely worked the entire time. So, but I probably on this one, I'll probably do it again. I'll probably use a combination of fast and fast and slow hardener.
And when you do that, how long does it take for the epoxy to go off?
Unclear.
You know, if you want all the luxury of the slow for working time and then the fast for less vacuum time, you could just use the slow, and then once it's done, clamp a heat lamp a foot and a half, turn that on, and
That's a great idea.
you need a can of Billy Mays Flex Seal for any holes you might poke in the process.
I have some.
Yeah, slap it on.
Levity aside, if you did poke a hole in the bag, is that something you'd be able to repair in situ, or is it just new bag time?
I don't think so. I mean, you might be able to put a little bit of the tape over it, and maybe we can certainly test it. I'm about satisfied. You know, like if I can figure out how to get this main wrinkle that's happening right here out of it, I'm fairly satisfied that this is a good dry run. 1 second. All right, so Doug, can you pin this one?
Yeah, we're pinned there.
How many inches of mercury are you filling?
Okay. Oh yeah, there's the whole thing about power failure too, just in general. Like, I probably wouldn't do this during a storm. You know what I'm saying?
How many inches of mercury is that gauge say it's pulling?
So I was getting up to two and some change, almost 2.5, I think.
Okay, so 25 inches. That's good. More than enough.
Hey, Ian, Rob McAllister here. Just had a comment regarding power failure. If you could set up some auxiliary tanks to hold.
Hold on 1 second. Let me wait till I get the thing. Doug, can you transfer to this camera?
Yep.
Of this. Something very similar to this right here, I let ride on the DA, and it was totally fine. But I wish that I had taken the time to like work it out, and just like pulling on the bag a little bit and just pressing that in, just rubbing that in. It makes that transition, if you can see that now. But that's just a lot better. Some of this stuff is not going to be like evident. Like this is clearly just like bag wrinkle and stuff like that. But this is like pretty much the result I had going with the DA. So, all right. So, somebody had something they were saying about the power going out?
Yeah, that's Rob McAllister here.
Yeah,
my vacuum pump, I built the one that Joe Woodworker advertises.
And he uses auxiliary tanks he made with Schedule 80 pipe. And that kind of holds the vacuum. So if you get power outages, you don't lose vacuum. And also the pump doesn't have to run continuously.
Yeah. This, I'd love a better setup. I feel like the weak spot in this though is trying to what Tyler was talking about before, which is that we're pulling through wood and bare wood at that. And like maybe I'm wrong about that, but I just think probably the weak link is in the bagging scenario, and that pump is probably going to drain that tank, is I guess what I'm saying, because it's such
yeah, you leave the pump on, and it replenishes, but you have that.
Oh, cool. All right, Doug, how long have we been at this?
2 hours and 10 minutes.
All right. Well, what do you think? Should we wet this up, or should we wait for another day?
Keep going.
Yeah, who said that?
That's other Doug, extra crispy.
Yeah.
I think it would be good to wait for the next.
Okay.
Because to have the opportunity to go to see it bagging it up fresh next time.
Yeah.
In a case like this where you have done your dry run and you say, okay, I got everything kind of where I want it, I know what to expect, I don't have to modify the size of my calls or anything like that. Your next step is to unbag this, get your epoxy ready, rebag it, and then before you seal the bag is when you're brushing on your.
Yeah. So basically, when I pulled the protection off of the tape, and I said this is where once I pulled the tape, that's where I would have gone over and mixed up my epoxy, and then come back and anointed the carbon fiber with the epoxy.
So I think from a logistics standpoint, it would be good to see that bagged up again at the next Ding Kings. Then you're gonna be brushing on epoxy. Plus and at that point, you're just a matter of then waiting for it to dry.
Yeah, it might be a short one, but we can do a short one.
It would be right when we're coming back off of Northwood, so a short one would be fine.
Okay, cool.
And then the third one, I think, would be good to see it being unbagged and
yeah,
have you carve it.
Yeah,
that would be great.
All right.
That sounds like a plan to me.
Well, want to thank everybody for hanging out. And should we open it up for questions one more time? I don't feel like anybody's really nobody was holding back during the presentation, were they?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't see anything in the chat.
Anybody?
PBM, but it's really wonderful. Come back again.
I stand on the shoulders of giants, and they're not happy about it either. Like, ow, my shoulders.
Ian, I got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
That vacuum pump you does it contain an oil reservoir?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
Super gross. As a matter of fact, let me just show you, so while we're at it. So I've got it in a garbage bag. And then if I was to run this overnight, I would just throw this towel over it.
Okay.
The garbage can.
Yeah, those things get like a cloud of. Those are the vacuum pumps they use to pull a vacuum on, like mini split air conditioner systems, I think.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, it's got a little bit of nastiness going on.
There's a few different types. That I think is probably a rotary vane pump. And then there's oilless diaphragm pumps. Those things sound like they're just so loud. You can't work in the same room with them. I've got a couple diaphragm pumps and they're just awful. And then there's the old piston pumps. But both those rotary vanes and the piston pumps, they throw oil. There's nothing you can do to stop it. There's little mufflers you can get that have filters that catch the oil. But it's just another cost to the job depending on how much you're using it. So
cool. Well, David, what did you think? Were you surprised when that sucked down at all?
I was, it turned out better than I was half expecting. It sounds like the second run on that, little risky to do a live video, but no, that looked good.
Yeah, we try to keep it loose here. If I'd crashed and burned, I mean, like I think nobody would have been too hard on me, but hopefully, except for Tyler Geske, who does everything perfectly the first time. But yeah,
I do have one more question.
yeah. Am I going to stand on this neck when this is done? Yes, I am. There's going to be a picture of me standing on this neck.
I hope so. But if the weak link of the seal is obviously around, the barrel of the neck and where you close the bag, would it at any point be viable to just bag the whole guitar and rely on the tape seal?
100%. It totally could be. It's just like that would be like probably about $50 in tape. So, but once that's done, then yeah, I like if it was that big, like I think you could totally like slit it open, do your stuff and then reseal it. Like if you had a big bag, that would probably be doable. This thing, like I just don't know, like I tried it a couple times and it all ended in failure, so I just kind of quit. I just do the bag over every time. But yeah, it's worth there's a lot of things this could be used for. I have a feeling, like just having the ability to make custom bags and do custom stuff like that, like it could wind up finding its way into interesting stuff here and there, making, clamping calls for weird bridges or some shit like that, you could probably come up with some cool stuff. So yeah, anybody else? Anybody? All right. Well, thus concludes Dane Kings. I hope everybody had fun, and we'll see you all at the next one. And for those of you that are going to Northwoods, I'll see you there.
Right.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Ian. That was awesome.
Thanks, Ian.
Cool. That's super great.
Thank you, Ian. That's some next level shit.
Yeah, thank you.
Gary Hayes.